Welcome back to the Three Man Weave podcast, talking college hoops. Typically, I call it the college basketball podcast. I forgot this time, but that's all right. We are here talking ball. I'm your host this week, Jim Root, joined by Kai McEwen and Matthew Wiping Poop Cox, talking ball on a Friday morning, shifting our typical daily cadence from Thursday to Friday. Just a little more convenient for overall schedules for the boys. Still going to get you a podcast right before the weekend. Lots to talk about today, so don't worry. Don't you fret, folks. Kai, how are you feeling? You ready for this new Friday cadence?
Yeah, Jim, I'm feeling good. Friday, as I like to call it in the corporate world.
What?
Yeah,
What?
yep, it's something I invented. It's new, but I'm trying it on, and so far I like it. Matthew, how are you, Mister Poop Wiper?
Good. Yeah, that's what they call me in the street. Streets. Can't talk this morning. Good. Poop has been wiped. All bombs have been diffused, Jimbo, and we're off and running. A clean, feces-free household here at 435. Insert rest of
Don't.
address.
Yeah. What are you
Okay,
doxing yourself,
thank
you
you.
goober? All right. Yeah, we're ready to rock. I'm sure everybody wanted us to talk number two to start the pod. Whatever. We're all feeling better after a wonderful bachelor party down in Fort Lauderdale. Shout out to our guy Sandwich Hoss and his upcoming nuptials. But today we've got a regular episode for you, talking a little Roots Roundup, some coaching news to visit. I hope Matthew is ready and loaded with his IU takes, talking his alma mater. Well, we've saw that, some big games, some performances, some baffling losses a little bit, and then three-man thoughts. Going to get into what we saw this week. I guess that's more we've saw that. Three-man thoughts is what we thought about, not what we actually saw. A couple weekend previews, a couple reviews, pod reviews to end. That is your agenda today. Shout out to Jay Pitty, the composer of our opening tunes. Mr. Paskov, hope you're doing well out there. Follow us on Instagram at 3MW_CVB. Same handle on Instagram. Super active stuff right there. Kai just
Yes,
recently gave us some guff for not using even using the Twitter handle. So perhaps that is going to be a change on the horizon.
a challenge, Jim, to both you and Matt. Tweet one time per week to start off, and then we'll
Ooh,
slowly ramp up. I once challenged once a day, once per week. Send a tweet from Three Man
time to
Weave.
get competitive. Time to get competitive. All
Yeah.
right. Subscribe to the pod on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, wherever it is you get your shows. Leave reviews. We read the Apple Pod reviews at the end of the pod. Feel free to leave a question. Kind of an open forum for you. We'll give you our thoughts on whatever topic is grinding your gears at the time. Subscribe to the YouTube channel where this show is currently live streaming on Friday morning. And of course, we've got our Saturday Best Bet show, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. We'll be back tomorrow after a week off
How about
last
that?
week.
Back-to-back days now with the new schedule. Wow.
B2B,
Wow.
some college players aren't built for this, Matthew. Some pros aren't even built for this, but we are not about that load management. We will play on back-to-back days.
Yeah,
So
we're the
don't
Ivies. We're not only
you
smart,
worry.
but we're also built to go back to back. Even make road trip. I might even podcast from a different location tomorrow, Jim, just to kind of replicate their experience. So yeah,
Yeah,
Warriors out
get
here.
some travel. I like that.
Matt, if you were an Ivy League, what would you be?
I always thought I was kind of Columbia guy, New York City, good business school
The
there.
lamest one.
Kai, I'd
I
be
think the lamest one's
Mizzou,
probably
the Ivy of the
Cornell.
Midwest. Come on.
Cornell's the lamest
The
one.
Ivy of the Midwest, Missouri.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That's us. That is us. Okay, and shout out
wait, Kai, where
to
would you go?
the
Me, Matt. I'd probably choose Princeton. Yeah,
Princeton.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm a
That's probably
Princeton
top tier for
man.
me.
I have a Princeton.
I'll be a Harvard boy. I'll
Harvard.
throw that out there.
Yeah,
Harvard.
Oh, you
wicked
elitist.
smart. Yeah.
Very, very elitist. Hey, my vice principal once called me wicked smart with the accent. So he was
that's nice.
quoting the movie. Yeah. Shout out to the burner, the Discord that we ply our trade in, Trilly Donovan's baby. All kinds of great places to discuss ball in there. You've got team forums, you've got our betting type channels, also just an AMA for us. If there's any question that is tickling your fancy, you may put that in there. We've got the film room show from Kevin Sweeney and Eric Fawcett. You've got Trilly Donovan Scoops. The potential portal list is growing every day. Great names in there to speculate about. And of course, coaching carousel, a lot being discussed with the news that we're going to discuss in a little bit here in Roots Roundup. And with that, guys, why don't we get into Roots Roundup? Talking news and notes here, Matthew, but before we do, a plug to those that promote us and support us.
Shouts to CBB Analytics, Jim. Talked with Nick yesterday, actually. A whole host of new features coming out, but I want to highlight two to really shine the light on what I think is going to be some cool stuff. First of all, for pro tier users, but again, that's coaches. So talking to you coaches, he has spent a ton of time behind the scenes acquiring a ton of NIL data on players, and he's kind of built an NIL prediction model for his site. So you can go on there and you can look at roughly how much a lot of these guys are making based on, crowdsourcing a ton of information from coaches, staffs, and I think Trilly was helping him out behind the scenes as well as a few other folks. So it's a great mechanism for coaches who now have to think about budgeting their rosters, like a GM and a source, both assistants, GMs as well. So he just rolled it out, I believe, this week, and he's like, he'll continue to improve it going forward. But from what I've seen, a lot of this just kind of makes sense with some of the sniff tests and cross-referencing with some of the reports we'd seen in our Discord. Again, join our Discord because there's a ton of good intel in there. But really cool stuff. Like, it's legitimately like one of the first tools out there where you can actually have a holistic view at a lot, like, what are these players going to be worth, and you can kind of play with how you might build a roster with a given budget. So shouts to that edition, coaches.
Wow.
Excuse me, talking to you specifically for that. And then user tier. We have two new things I want to. So downloadable data, Kai. Don't you hate when you go to a site, you want to just get the raw data behind the web page? You always complain about. I know you do. You hate that.
You know me.
Just like Kempom has this very nice downloadable feature, so he is now rolling that out for the user tiers on a lot of those pages. So really big. I know people in our Discord have been asking about that feature for some of the CB analytics stuff. That is coming, as well as more detailed on-off splits. Ooh. I was bemoaning the death of pivot analysis, which was a useful tool for me for on-off and pace. Now he is offering that to user tiers with the offense impact, defense impact, pace, as well as some more advanced statistics. So check that out as well, folks. Again, that's CB Analytics. Promo code WEAVE gets you $40 off a user tier subscription, WEAVE, and pro tier for coaches. Again, please mention us when you talk to Nick, or reach out to us directly, and we'll put you in touch with Nicholas.
Beautifully said, Matthew.
Wonderful.
And in conjunction with all the coaching tier, let's talk coaching news, because, oh boy, we've got two big ones to dissect. And Matt, we'll start with your alma mater, Bloomington, Indiana. Mike Woodson officially announced done. Indiana will have a different coach next year. There's some details to sort out in terms of the retirement and the wording and maybe even the timing of all of this. But regardless, we know that your long Indiana nightmare is over. The crowd doesn't have to completely lose its mind anymore because they know there's a light at the end of the tunnel. How do you feel about this? What say you?
Hang on, George is barking us a little bit. So here's my thoughts on this. Give me a second.
Okay, we've got a barking dog. Kai, what about you? What do you think of Indiana turning it over?
Smart, very smart. They listen to the fans. This is a good call. Woody clearly not the man for the job. To begin with, weird hire to begin with. Don't hire a legend because he's a legend. Don't hire a guy because he's coached in the NBA. He wasn't even that good of an NBA coach, was he? I don't think he was.
He was meh. Yeah.
He coached Melo, though, Kai. Coached Melo.
Yeah, regardless.
Different sport.
That was supposed to be a cool sell.
A massively different sport.
I would say Indiana. Was Archie Miller a good hire, Matthew, at the time? Do we think that was a good hire at the time?
George Majeski.
At the time, everybody loved that hire.
No, that's not true. There's
Matt,
very
you
real
loved that hire.
No, I said it was a double or triple. Majeski said it was a double. No one was don't act like us the entirety
a triple is a good hire.
It's a good at bat.
No, it's only a good hire if you didn't fire Tom Crean. It was the context of you just had a very good coach. If you're gonna fire Tom Crean, the guy who took you to multiple Sweet 16s, yeah, it is. It was absolutely a double of a hire.
I don't like this retconning. There's nowhere you can't compare Archie and Woodson.
It's a retcon.
This is ridiculous.
I'm not saying. Wait, what are we comparing now? Archie and Woodson.
My point was,
what's your point?
Indiana needs to get this next coaching hire right.
It's going to go terribly if they don't.
Do you think Archie was a good hire? If your opinion would be like, oh, they made two straight really bad hires. At the time, I didn't think Archie was that bad of a hire because he was awesome at Dayton, but. I can't remember how IU and fans initially felt.
I thought Archie was I thought Archie was an okay hire at the time. I thought it was a bad hire in the context of if you're going to fire Crean, you follow Crean up with you have to take a much bigger, ambitious swing. that's my take on the Archie context of the hire. I think Woodson was always kind of like, what? Woodson?
Yeah,
Really?
horrible. Horrible.
But we'll see. Hey, we're gonna chant Dusty May's name into oblivion on Saturday when the Wolverines come to town, and when Brad Stevens eventually answers that call, and it's like, nah, I'm fine actually, and says no, then Dusty will come on down to Beat Town. Prediction. Thanks, Gavel.
Would you
We'll
rather
see.
have Dusty May or Billy Donovan, Matt?
Dusty May.
What?
Interesting.
What? We're gonna do this again. I love
Okay,
Dusty May,
it's
but Billy Donovan won two
why?
national titles. What are we
I don't
talking?
think it's. I don't think it's crazy, man.
It was like 20 years ago. I was like in
Yeah,
middle school.
that's why. Yeah,
I
I don't
mean,
think it's nuts.
the Billy Donovan, like, are we sure Billy Donovan's a great college coach today? Are we sure
Yes,
Brad
I'm.
Stevens is an absolute great coach today? We're sure about that. Okay. I mean, you're probably right. I just don't think you can be 99% sure about that.
Yeah, fine. I mean, he's only 59. It's not like he's a 70-year-old fossil that is gonna not adapt to anything. I
Did we
don't know.
have a
It's
great
it's not
record?
realistic.
Like,
I just wanted to make that joke because of the John
I
Shire
just
versus
think it's,
Billy Donovan.
I look at the Thad. I know Thad Matta was a different circumstance, came back older for sure. There were more questions about age, I think, when he took the Butler job, but
That's
it's
not
a little
even that
too close
old.
to home in the heartland of Indiana to, given how that's gone. I don't know. Maybe it's a bad example. I recognize that, but there are at least a few parallels.
Yeah, Thad's still only 57, so he was like 55 when he came back.
He was
It's
actually
kind of
younger
wild.
than. Oh wow,
Billy Donovan
Yeah,
is older than Thad Matta.
Billy's aged very well. Billy the
yeah,
Kid. I mean,
How
it's Billy the
about
Kid.
that?
Come on, he's timeless,
Billy the
baby.
Kid. He is. Yeah. Yeah, of course, you make Brad Stevens say no, and you chase Dusty within the conference. Who knows if he's willing to leap? Matt, what's your like? Do you have an emergency button hire that you're like, all right, we know this guy will say yes, that I'll actually feel good about? So I'm trying to think of where that might be. I know you don't want to go the mid-major route again, like Archie. You don't want to pull from the NBA. Is there a sitting head coach that you think you could scoop at this point?
I see Jay Moore had a few good names. What was his list again?
I know he had
He said, I know Ben McCollum's a big guy on his list, and I think
Ben
that's
McCollum, Nicole Scott Drew. I mean, maybe Dennis Gates was somebody he liked.
ooh.
Grant McCaslin was
No
somebody
way.
he liked.
Grant McCaslin would be the one. That's the one name. That's right. McCaslin's the one guy I would throw a big bag to get him to IU. I mean, I love Gates. Just I don't know.
There's no
Even
chance in
McCollum's
hell.
like I'm not like fired up about McCollum. Wait, what?
No chance in hell they hire Gates. No.
I don't think they'll
I
pay
think
the
Gates
buyout.
Zero. Zero
Gates
point
is
zero. They won't even interview
enormous
him.
buyout.
No.
Well, Kai, this is a fun transition because will Florida State?
Yes, they will.
Dennis Gates'
Speaking of
old
Dennis Gates, future
stomping
employer.
grounds. Yes, Leonard Hamilton retiring at the end of the year at Florida State. Seminoles going in a different direction. Whether this was a forced retirement or not is what you believe. I think it probably was. But yes, Dennis Gates definitely going to be a name mentioned here because of his work down in Tallahassee. I don't think Florida State can afford to pay his buyout, like straight up. I think that's going to be a massive blocker in that deal. So Kai, where do we stand? Leonard Hamilton obviously it just kind of felt like it ran its course. It fell far from the peak of that stretch he had, like heading into the COVID stoppage when they were elite for 5 straight years. Now, where do they turn?
I think they're going to struggle for a bit, Jim. I don't think they can hire somebody from a Power Five school. I think it's got to be mid-major or it's got to be assistant coach. I don't think they can afford Gates, like you said. I don't even think Gates would take it. His connection to Florida State is Leonard Hamilton. He's a Leonard Hamilton guy. He's not from Florida. He's from Chicago, Illinois. He went to Cal. Like he's not like a Florida guy. So the connection's Hamilton. He's not going to take Florida State. They got to go assistant. Hey, maybe one of the UConn guys would take Florida State. Probably not. I don't know if Florida State's a good job with the NIL situation
I
right now.
mean, yeah, you look at their NIL class this year
Yeah.
and the NIL
Yeah.
lawsuit filed against Leonard Hamilton. That's not ideal. Matt, what do you think about Luke Laux, former Florida State players on the Sacramento Kings staff? That's kind of been a buzzy name given his familiarity and likely fact that he's not going to be overly expensive.
Yeah, I like that. I think there's a developing theme of former recent NBA assistants who are well respected amongst NBA circles. I think like Mike Young from BYU. I think Damon
Kevin Young.
Stoudemire sort of had that ilk
Kevin
as
Young.
well. Kevin Young, sorry, not Mike Young. Kevin Young, thank you. I think that's going to be a developing trend of like the prototype of hire you'll look. Not former NBA players necessarily, but recent NBA assistant coaches who may have some affiliation with the college or a nearby NBA team, I suppose. So I feel like I've heard
Yeah.
those types of names pop up more commonly.
And I think maybe like the connections to the agent world are going to be
Yeah, so they have connections to
appealing
agents
there.
and the pro
It's
stuff,
like,
but they also bring like more modern, schematical concepts, which I think are generally a good thing in a somewhat antiquated college game. So I
Oh,
see
you
where that puck's going.
shut your mouth. How dare
No,
you?
I'm not calling it. It's not
Antiquated
bad.
game.
He's been watching Indiana. Of course he thinks it's an
It's
antiquated.
not. Coach Mello though,
Okay.
okay. Coach Carmelo.
There you go. There you
Whatever.
go. Get him up to Syracuse. All right. Let's move on from coaching news. Quick recruiting note. Five-star shooting guard Elijah Arenas headed to USC. Kai, you may recognize that last name.
Yeah.
Does it make you feel old?
Yeah, Gilbert Arenas, man. I mean, I felt old when Boozer's kids are coming to college, and Carmelo's kid is going to come to college, and Arenas played in the early 2000s, 2001, 2.
Agent Zero.
He was before
Actually, was it
Carmelo,
Agent
wasn't
Zero
he?
for Arizona? He
Yeah,
wasn't Agent
Agent
Zero for
Zero.
Arizona, was he?
Well, he
Yeah.
was zero for Arizona, I think.
He was
Yeah.
zero. Oh, he was. Yeah, okay.
It sounded like people gave him zero chance. I don't know. People are always doubting the pro athletes. Yeah, so
Yeah.
somehow,
Oh, man. He'll
somehow,
never
the
make
world
it.
class athletes, someone always doubts them. Yeah, congrats to USC. They must have given him a bag. That's Musselman style. I'm sure this guy's really good.
Yeah. I like the guys with the father NBA pedigree. Typically a
Yeah.
strong thing, except for Bronny James.
Where's he at now?
Shout out to everybody who had a
The
fantasy
Lakers.
basketball team called "Don't Bring Guns to Arenas" because of
That's pretty funny.
Gilbert Arenas.
Good job.
Yeah, yeah. I had a couple that I encountered, not my own, but other people were more creative than me.
I think it's a good fit with Luca, don't you think? The Bronny thing.
Don't get
I
me.
think Luca elevates Bronny.
Don't get me.
We'll talk
started.
about that in 3 minute thoughts later.
It's too early. Kai hasn't had enough coffee to go on a Bronny rant yet. All right, in the injury news section here, Tucker DeVries officially done for West Virginia. This was widely assumed, but he finally had shoulder surgery. Announced officially they're going to seek a medical red shirt. So you guys thought you were done with Tucker DeVries. No, sir. Expected back in possibly Morgantown next year. Who knows if Darian DeVries hops back aboard the carousel this year. Sorry, West Virginia fans. I don't think it'll happen, but it's entirely possible. And then I wanted to give a quick shout out to Campbell's Jason Sinani. We typically don't delve into mid-major injuries here, but he had what was described as a Kevin Ware-esque leg break last night on a dunk attempt. I got like the bad shivers, goosebumps, nightmares from watching that injury. So just wishing him a quick recovery and getting back to full health because that is gruesome. I saw there's a Reddit thread about this, and I was just like, if there's any chance there's a clip, I'm not clicking on this. So I did not.
No. Campbell. Wow, this is a very Campbell featured podcast today. We're going to mention them a couple times. Interesting. The Camels, Matthew Humps.
Yeah,
Conversation-
the injury kind of. I mean, I watched a little bit last night. Put a little bit of a damper on that. Like what should have been capped off a 6 game winning streak and how awesome they've been, but there was like the scare of the whole Lance Ware type injury was lingering. That was kind of a bummer. But yeah, they've been awesome. Like it's been insane. No one expected this. It came completely out of nowhere, and they're crushing a decent CAA right now. I would say decent-ish.
Matt's got baby brain. He means Kevin Ware, not Lance Ware.
Kevin Ware, sorry. Yeah, Lance Ware
You're
doing
good, you're good.
yeoman's work down there at Arneson right now. So
Other random news and notes to mention here, guys. And I say this with air quotes, head coach of the Green Bay basketball program, Doug Gottlieb, is down at Radio Row in New Orleans working this week. He is the team was off on Wednesday, so at least that was a thing. But he missed practice on Thursday in advance of their weekend game. And it's just absurd. They're 2-21. They haven't won a league game. He had some rant, and there's a story in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel about how if you don't look on the court and see how we're improving and you understand how tough it is to lose our two best players at this level, then you're crazy. And it just, again, he's half coaching and half radio, and as evidenced by going down to New Orleans. And this is just yet another funny story in a sad arc that I do not think ends well.
Completely baffling, Jim. It's what every single person in the nation said was going to happen when he got hired, and lo and behold, it's happening. It's criminal, I think, that Green Bay hired this guy. Criminal.
Yeah.
Lock him up.
Put the AD in prison.
I defended this hard. Doug, I'm disappointed, man. You can't be at the Super Bowl doing stuff. Like, I thought you'd be a good coach. Talked about how you coached in Israel and AAU stuff, and then it's just like, I don't know. The optics were bad. So
They're real bad. When you're 2-22, I think I said 2-21. They're 0-13. they have a loss to a D2 school. Like it's not great. So okay, we'll move on. I'm just gonna beg anyone with power at Reddit to put game threads and post game threads in a different place,
I
or
agree.
put non-game threads, and like it's impossible to find anything because of all
Yeah.
that. So that's just a an imploring, a begging. Please change that. Okay, we move now into we've saw that notable results, games, events, moments, performances of the past week. And we'll start in Lexington, where John Calipari returned home, quote unquote, to Rupp Arena and beat Kentucky by 10. Man, Arkansas followed it with a win at Texas, two straight road Q1 wins. Here come the
Nelly Davis season.
Razorbacks.
Nelly
That's
Davis
right.
season. The
Talk to him, Matt.
Razorbacks. Eric Muscle. Oh wait, no, not there anymore. The ghost of Eric Muscle March has passed. Has stayed with Calipari there as they get ready for a big March surge. I don't know if they're back, but they're always too talented to be as bad as they were. And Cal's teams do tend to get better later in the year. They don't have like the Izzo or Musselman perceptions, but I think historically they do tend to improve later in the year. And they're generally younger, so it does make sense.
Nell-
This team's
Yeah.
not. This team's more of an older team.
Nelly Davis has been just categorically better these last 2 games, or 3 games really. I mean,
Did we ever confirm was he hurt or just in a
He had
mental
like a wrist
funk with
thing all
his
through
rotation?
preseason, but then yeah, I think he
That's
just
right.
didn't
Okay.
know what his role was, like alongside a bunch of high usage younger guys.
yeah, can I say coaching? Coaching was
Yeah.
a little bit of the problem there. I mean, Jesus, this guy is your best player. Figure
Yeah.
out
No,
a
it is.
role.
He's a quasi alpha on a top 25 team caliber talent, in my opinion. So I don't know why we can't figure that out, but whatever.
Well, it seems like they're starting to. Arkansas making a push, still an underdog to make the tournament by models and gambling odds and stuff, but they've got a chance. The SEC certainly presents opportunities, and Arkansas starting to take advantage of them. So congratulations to the Hogs. On the other side of that, real quick, guys, Kentucky's defense is horrible.
Really bad.
They're averaging or giving up 1.2 points per possession in league play. 1.2, just as a standard flat rate. It's really bad. They were completely lacking effort against Ole Miss this week in their second straight loss, following up the homecoming heartbreak against Calipari. Matt, I know Lamont Butler matters a
Oh,
lot
I
on the
do have a
ball.
thought of this, by the way.
Okay, I'll
Yes.
table this. All
Thank you.
right, all right. We'll table Kentucky destruction. Another blue blood. We'll talk Duke. They smashed UNC in a rivalry game that was never close. Just completely buried them. Turned around, went up to the Carrier Dome, and eviscerated Syracuse. Matt, Duke is somewhat making a mockery of the ACC, but they do have their biggest ACC game this Saturday. Are you just like all in on your baby Blue Devils that aren't even that baby
Yeah,
this year?
yeah, and again, it's this is the part of the year where we have to catch ourselves before talking about certain teams that are making moves within the context of a bad league or a good league, right? I think what we thought of this team coming into the conference matters, but we still had very high expectations for this team before the conference play started. And obviously, this is a young team, so they have been getting much better. Their defense is absolutely insane. Um, yeah, I think they're in the upper tier elite echelon officially with Auburn at this point. I'm not sure who else they've been put in that tier at this point. I think Houston maybe, but I think it's those two by a pretty substantial margin.
Duke is the only team top 5 offense and defense in KenPom nationally. Only one other team is top 10 in both. That's Houston. The ACC, though, man. They're the only team in the top 25 in KenPom in the ACC. And there's like 5 teams in the top 70 or top 80 in the ACC. It's a brutal league. Brutal.
It's like as good as the WCC at this point. It's like one team and then some others, maybe bubblish. They were at 40-13 against UNC. Like it's a joke. They
Yeah.
had an 11-0 run and a 16-0 run before UNC scored 15 points. They're completely categorically better than anybody in that conference. Speaking of Houston, they did drop a home game, surprisingly, to Texas Tech. Here come the Red Raiders. They went in and won in overtime at Houston, despite JT Toppin getting kicked out on a pretty controversial call for
Oh, yeah.
kicking JoJo Tugler in the nuts while trying to throw a cross-court pass. It looked rather unintentional to me. Texas Tech backed it up with a win against Baylor. They are really rolling right now. Kai, we watched this game at the
Mhm.
Airbnb in Fort Lauderdale. Who'd you come away with the takeaway here? Were you more impressed with Texas Tech or concerned about Houston?
Oh, impressed with Texas Tech for sure. Yeah. First of all, we gotta change the accidentally hit someone in the nuts rule is an automatic rejection or ejection. That's freaking
Yes.
crazy. Also glad McCaslin got kicked out for that. Good. You should. You should absolutely go livid on the refs. Yeah, impressed with Texas Tech. They played really well. They shot the crap out of the ball. That's kind of how you beat Houston. And congrats, you did it. And they were tough. I'm not worried about Houston. By the way, that was their first home loss since January 2023. It's been a while. So, yeah, Texas Tech rolling good. We thought they were going to be this good, and they are. Hooray! Hooray for us. Go Weave.
We're also we're at the whine about ref season part of the year. I saw a lot of criticism coming toward the Big 12 referees. Now, I believe headed up by our guy John Higgins, John the Hairdo Higgins, who I think is, according to a couple of good people on Twitter, just sort of he's hiring guys that aren't really as qualified as maybe some of the top tier leagues. Like, he's kind of taken chances on some dudes that shouldn't be there. And I think the quality of the overall refereeing there's been pretty bad. I mean, the Big 12's been, I think, of the big conferences, refereeing wise, pretty disastrous. And I think the Big Ten, for example, that have moved their games outside of the Saturday slots, you get better quality officials on Friday and Sunday, for example, than you do on Saturday when you're competing for everybody for zebras. So
That's a great point, Matthew. That's a great point. You just reminded me of something unrelated, but speaking of Friday and Sunday games, Justin Perry tweeted this, I believe, from Shot Quality, but there are 155 games on Saturday, and Friday and Sunday combined, there are 15. I know this is the Super Bowl on Sunday, but it's just so stupid.
It really
idiotic.
Is stupid. It really is stupid.
Seven whatever games.
It is harder because these are kids in school, so you have to be like, I think that's part of the thing.
No, they're not.
You can do Friday and Sunday. Yeah.
I didn't have Friday classes.
No, but I mean, I think kids have Friday classes. If some do, most didn't. I know Kai, you didn't. You never went. Kai always skipped Fridays.
They play Tuesday, Wednesday games all the time.
I agree. It's just historically been easier to do it on the weekends. It just is.
I think
but that's changing because now
Sunday
they're pro athletes, so it shouldn't be a thing anymore.
Right.
Now we have to move into the future. I agree.
Okay, St. Mary's seized control of the WCC late on Saturday night. Another one we stayed up for at the Airbnb. Beat the Zags, took them down, but St. Mary's gave a little control back last night, shooting 3 of 23 from deep at San Francisco. And one of those threes was like a desperation one final minute. Lost at San Francisco, first time that the Dons have beat the Gales since 2019. Big one there. And now St. Mary's is going to have that rematch with Gonzaga coming up. They go to Oregon State on the weekend. WCC race is not done. The Dons also with only 3 losses there. What's up, Kai?
My only worry is I really hope they make the tournament. I just quickly looked at their resume. I was like, okay, I think we're still going to get 2 WCC teams in, aka Zags and Marys, but it would be a real shame if they somehow miss. This is a very good team.
Yeah, they're still top 30 resume metrics.
Good team still.
Yeah. They're in decent shape. 7-4 versus the top 2 quadrants, no bad losses. Yeah, you expect to see the Gales dancing. Other news, St. John's took care of Marquette in the Big East. Matthew, big one at home. They now have the longest Big East winning streak since 1992, which for those of you keeping track at home was the year they made the Final Four. Rick Pitino's got them 20-3. They got a huge one tonight at UConn. Going to be a heck of an atmosphere there. Matthias, do you believe in the Red Storm despite the fact that they can't hit a jump shot at all?
Yeah, I'll totally. Because what if on one day they actually do make jump shots? Like in the tournament, if they're going to go to the Final Four, maybe they're going to need to probably not shoot 20% every game from 3 to make a deep run. But the fact that they're playing at this level to have that result against that Marquette team, that's been struggling-ish. Like, I do think that's kind of part of the story. This Marquette team is not looking like it's in its Mach 5 gear right now. Still, I think this kind of proves that the blueprint to St. John's whole operation is it is sort of variance proof in a way. They're just really hard to beat. You have to beat them in the they do the buzz ball extra thing better than anybody this season. So that's why I think it's so impressive and I think almost sustainable because they're not as erratic offensively as like those buzz teams. I know they can't shoot, but they at least get better shots. They just have more offensively skilled, versatile mismatch options to go through. So I love this St. John's team. I really do.
They are a little worse version of Houston.
I was just thinking of the Houston Texas A&M game in the tournament last year. Yes, I buy that guy.
Yeah, right. Worst version. Houston can actually shoot.
Yeah. But like they're St. John's is 11-1 atop the Big East, and they're shooting sub 24% from three in league play.
Yeah, that's
Like
wild.
it's nuts. And yeah, that's the defense translates, gives you a night to night thing. That's what people always worried about, like Mark Pope teams in the NCAA tournament. Oh, they're reliant on jump shooting. What happens if they don't go in? Well, St. John's always has an option if they don't go in, and when they do, they look like an absolute terror. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
believe in them too. They're up to fourth in Ken Palm's adjusted defense.
they don't have a really high free throw rate. Like that was Houston's always knockers, right? They don't actually put any pressure on the rim because they settle for too many jump shots. St. John's is kind of in the middle of the pack in terms of free throw rate, but they do get to the rim, I think, more consistently. So they don't, again, but when you rebound it at the high rate that they do, it doesn't really matter where your shots come from. You can shoot 2 or 3 times a possession.
Yep. Ohio State erased a 17-point deficit to beat Maryland last night. Bruce Thornton, absolute monster, kind of like a mini Braden Smith in the Big Ten, the way that he can cut up, drop coverage. And just notable because they were down 50-17 in the first half at Maryland. They were down, I think 9 last night, but got down 17 in the first half. Ohio State's got some weird resilience to them. Like they were getting blown out at Wisconsin and came back and covered. I'm somewhat impressed by a team that's had some injury concerns all year. Didn't have Aaron Bradshaw last night, but the Buckeyes, I see you. I recognize you. Jake
I
Diebler did
agree.
a better job than I
Jim, I'll
thought.
join you on that. I hand up. I've been throwing some strays at Diebler. Yeah, they've been overall in pretty impressive job where they're at. Not like amazing, but better than I thought. I had a low bar, and that was probably disrespectful.
They have
Yep.
5 Q1 wins. That's a lot.
Yeah. Very likely dancing. I mean, they're only 14-9 overall, so there's some risk factor if they stumble down the stretch, but they're in good shape right now. A couple buzzer beaters from farther than half court. Shout out to my old English teacher. Fairfield's Dion Perry hit a 70-footer last night to beat Marist. Pretty big MAC title implications because Marist was sitting alone atop the conference with one loss. Now they're tied with Quinnipiac and Merrimack in the loss column. Wild, wild shot. I saw it live and yelped in my apartment. And then Stephen F. Austin hit a 60-footer to beat New Orleans in overtime over the weekend. Just insanity. This is why we love mid-major hoops. This is why it's fun that there's this many games in college hoops. And for the Fairfield one especially, this is why we don't advance the ball because that shot never happens because
Yeah.
they called a timeout
Agreed.
and it would be up near half court. And I like having this wrinkle, Kai.
Yeah, I've heard the people. Honestly, I don't know what the defense is for advancing the ball. It's never made sense to me. Show me why that's a thing. It's not. It shouldn't be. There's no logic to it at all. Advancing the ball is dumb. Can't prove it
Yeah.
otherwise.
Because
I agree.
we want it is basically like,
Doesn't make any sense
I
to make
feel
more
like
drama,
it's
to
better.
manufacture more drama.
yeah,
Don't you
it's
want
basically what it
drama?
is.
Well, half court shot is pretty cool, Jim. Pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's a Tyus Edney drive from end to end, even if it breaks our Mizzou hearts, Kai. So
Yeah,
I'm
we're
just saying,
babies. Yeah,
yeah, I was not a Mizzou fan at the time. That's okay.
it was a
Hey, Mississippi Valley State, first Division One win of the season. Yay! Clap, clap, clap for the Delta Devils. We thought it might never happen, but they took down Pine Bluff, their first D1 win in just under a year. The last one was February 26th, 2024. Pretty glad it didn't have to suffer an entire 365 days. So big W for the Delta Devs. Matt, you're not currently in your office
Not-
with the pennant behind you, but we know
It's a
you support.
mistake by me. It's a mistake by me. Yeah, we knew we knew they'd get one. Maybe they get one more. I think they
Maybe.
get two. Might
Maybe.
pick off. I don't know who's bad in that league. I guess everyone's kind of bad. but
several.
Yeah,
Several teams. Yes, they've got opportunities.
Good candidates.
Big performances. Shout out to Indiana's Yafet Mundi, who had 25 points and 20 boards against the aforementioned Fairfield on Saturday. Typically reserve this for big scoring or triple doubles, but 20 rebounds, you get a hat
Pretty
tip
good.
from us. Well done, Mr. Mundi. And two 40-point games in the mid-major world. Gardner Webb's Daryl Simmons had 40 on Saturday against Winthrop. And going back to last Thursday, Monmouth Madison Durr, Matt, he had 40 on 11 field goal attempts. He was 10 for 11 from the field, 19 for 19 from the stripe. That is efficiency, points per shot through the roof. I've never understood points per shot because like free throws are a possession, so they should count. But
Yeah, that's
hey,
stupid. I agree.
it's impressive.
I think in a wide open CAA from which we talked about Campbell, a lot of CAA discussion on this podcast today. Monmouth has the best like nation captivating upside in terms of if they get hot and win that tournament with Abdi Bashir and Madison Durr.
Bashir.
I mean that could be like a holy cow, why did no one talk about this team? They're so amazing. They have like these two awesome guards that make every shot. That's sort of my hope for maybe some drama out of the CAA if that's the path it goes.
I like it, Matthew. Yeah, I don't particularly want Towson. Sorry, Pat Scary, but I don't need to see
I don't know.
that
I
team
love
in my
Pat Scary
tournament.
though. I agree. It's
I
not really
love
a
Pat
fun team to
Scary,
watch.
but yeah,
It's not a fun team though. Yeah.
yeah. Bad loss section. A couple damaging big home losses here. Iowa State got smacked at home by Kansas State as 14.5 point favorites. Cyclones have now lost three in a row. Definitely, maybe not definitely, but they are out of the one seed conversation for now. Just surprising to see Hilton Magic get absolutely dominated by Coleman Hawkins and Doug McDaniel. Kai, how about that?
Yeah, Kansas State thriving right now,
Yes,
surging. You could even say.
they are cooking. Big one against KU coming up this weekend. North Texas also lost at home as 14.5 point favorites. And I say this mostly because they actually had a shot at net large. I had been kind of taking a cursory look at my bubble watch. Hey, check it out on The Athletic. They were in the mix, and then they took this loss to UTSA, and it's just the margins are too thin, I think, for mid-major teams. And you can't lose the ones where you're a 15-point favorite. So Mean Green, sorry, made me sad. In the ACC, we mentioned it earlier, it is a topsy-turvy league other than Duke. And it's mostly because Georgia Tech is a chaos agent. They are trying to make sure that the league only gets one bid. They beat Louisville. They won at Clemson. The other two teams that seemed somewhat comfortably in, they're trying to make it interesting. How about those Yellow Jackets, Matthew? Your Damon Stoudemire's boys?
They're giant killers, Jimbo. They they don't look very good against normal teams, but against good teams, it's like, well, look out. I mean, even against Duke, they put on a pretty good run against Duke this year. I think they closed that to like a 7 point game or something, but then Duke did what Duke usually does. But yeah, they're kind of that sneaky landmine for the very few teams that actually matter in that conference. Your Clemson's and now your Louisville's included.
Yeah, someone in our Discord had the stat that over the last 2 years, Georgia Tech is only 25-32 overall, but they're 6-1 or 6-11 in Q1
6 and
games.
11 against Q1 games. Yeah,
Like
crazy.
they're a completely like different team in Q1 games, and then they're 500 against everybody else. Doesn't really make sense. But hey, they know how to play up against the big boys. Also had some just surprising stumbles. Florida State lost to Boston College. What are you doing? Cal lost to Syracuse. Notre Dame lost to Miami, Florida. This one was shocking to me. Miami, Florida was dead and buried, and then a Micah Shrewsbury team goes in there and loses. That was troubling. Virginia loses to Virginia Tech. Pitt loses to Virginia. There's just all kinds of a mess in there. We'll talk more Pitt later in Kai's thought, but ACC just eating itself, making sure that it's only going to get like three bids.
Wah, wah, wah. They're going to
Yep.
complain again,
Well,
Jim.
they will. They sure
Yeah.
will if
Our
one
boy
team wins
T.O.
the ACC tournament.
Our boy T.O. is going to grab the mic when Duke makes the Final Four. The ACC was good.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you lost to Miami, Florida. Look how talented they are. Well, they lost every game by 30 in ACC play, except for that one. Okay, new section, coaching. Talk to us about this a little bit. Kai, I'm gonna let you go on your Mizzou pedestal here.
Oh yeah, this was fun. Yeah. So Mizzou Tennessee game. Just two factors here. Uh, Gates at the end of the game put two guys on the ball in a full court situation where the guy couldn't run the baseline. I like this a lot. I have not seen this maybe at all very much. This is very smart. Uh, Great job by Gates. I mean, I guess you usually just kind of throw it off one of the guys and time continues, but very smart indeed. Jim, did you like that? Did you see that?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a great, especially like you said, they couldn't move, couldn't run the baseline. So you
Yeah,
have him blanketed in. You really
blanketed.
eliminate passing angles. Might have to throw a lob in. We saw what happened when Kansas tried to throw a lob in to Hunter Dickinson, gets stolen, game tying three. So creates havoc. Makes the other team potentially pass it to a bad free throw shooter too, because you leave one guy open. I like it. I thought it was a really good strategy.
And then counter to that, Tennessee. Now, I think Ziegler might have been taking it out in this, but consistently Rick Barnes had Ziegler take the ball out under the basket, under his own basket. Why? He's 5'9". I understand he's your point guard and maybe your best passer, but all Mizzou did was put Trent Pierce on him, and it's like you can't even see. And he also took him out. Ziegler also took the ball out full court a few times, despite being an 88% free throw shooter at the end of the game. So your best free throw shooter should not take the ball out at the end of the game when they're fouling you, and your best or your 5'9" point guard should not take the ball out under the basket. Those are my strong thoughts on the coaching angles there.
I liked it, Kai. Good. We like to have
Yeah,
some
I agree.
passion in games we watch. I just want to shout out Chaka Smart for playing Cam Jones with 2 fouls in that St. John's game. I know they did not win, but in the first half, you have to roll with the guy who averages 2.5 fouls per 40 minutes and is your fourth year senior point guard, all kinds of experience. I like to criticize coaches when they don't do this. So, on the other hand, I must praise when I see them do it. So, thank you, Shaka. Golf
Yeah,
clap.
Jim, I saw you gave Jim Boeheim some love too on the Twitter tweets with a notion I agree. The game is game is tied.
Oh,
Why are we
yeah.
pulling from 40? Let's go to the rim, maybe. The
It's
rim sounds
he is
better.
such a funny announcer because he has no energy. He's like you can hear him like
He's
melting
an
into
old
his
guy on
lazy
his
boy
couch
being
watching the game,
grumpy.
just comment, and
Yes.
that's all I want though. It's perfect. It's just like put a mic in
Yeah.
front of him. He can sit at home and his feet up, and that's all
Yeah.
of the Jim
For
Boeheim I need.
for context on this, Chase Hunter of Clemson had the ball with like 15 seconds left against Georgia Tech in overtime, and he's just pounding the ball onto the ground near half court.
Yep.
And Boeheim is just like, don't do it. Don't take a three. Don't dribble drive. Please drive. And then he takes a three, and he's just like, why? Why?
This
It bricks out. They go to double overtime. They lose.
We talk about this all the time. The late game. Why are we running out the clock and then shooting in desperation? That's your play at the end of the game. It happens all the time in college basketball.
Yeah, run Cyclone, run a Spain pick and roll, run zoom action. Like I know
Anything.
sometimes teams shut it down, but teams shut down one-on-one play all the time too. You get terrible shots out of it. I don't know. At least a ball screen, I think, unless you know the guy can beat the guy off the dribble, but if they're not going to try, they're just going to pull up, then yeah, it's pointless. I despise it. Okay, that's it. We saw that. Let's get into three-man thoughts. Before we do, Kai, another shout out to Home Field, whose cozy sweatpants I'm wearing.
Yes. Just once. Matt gave me an idea. What if we just had two like normal average dads announce basketball games? That'd be fun. Complaining about
Just
travel,
grumps.
complaining about the refs. I would really enjoy watching that. But yes, three man thoughts brought to you by Home Field Apparel, the best collegiate apparel you can possibly buy. If you're not familiar with them, they make the comfiest t-shirts, joggers, hoodies, sweatshirts, hats, everything you can think of related to college sports. They just released a 3-pack of Philly schools: Drexel, LaSalle, St. Joe's. Some really cool gear amongst those squads. And yes, you notice I mentioned 3 mid-majors. They don't discriminate. They got mid-majors on there. They got power schools on there. They have D2, D3 schools on there. It really is a treasure trove of college basketball, football, etc. gear on homefieldapparel.com. You can get 15% off your first purchase from Homefield by using our promo code 3MW. Again, go to homefieldapparel.com, shop using our code 3MW. That is Homefield, wear one for the team.
I hope they keep rolling out more rinkside hoodies because I think those things are delightful.
They're cool.
So that's my pressure. I think there's only 17 schools now, but I want more. I want more. Bring more to us, home field. Okay, three-man thoughts. Kai, I'm going to have you start it out because you actually swiped a thought from me. I was going to go with some struggling teams, and I saw you already had this, so I like
Yes.
it.
Struggling teams, a 4-pack here. I just want to zoom in real quick on teams that have been talked about a lot in the Discord. I would say, again, the Burn Discord, please join. It's awesome. Cincinnati is where we're going to start. Holy woof. Now, these all these rankings I'm going to reference are as of yesterday, so it's possible they changed a bit. Don't shoot me. Don't rake me over the coals here. Yeah, don't
at me.
Cincinnati, man. Yeah. They're 76th in Bart Torvik since January 15th. They're down to 55 in KenPom overall after starting 17 at the beginning of the year, sitting at 3-8 in the Big 12 and 1-6 in Q1 games. So resume's bad, analytics are bad. It's not looking good. Culprit, they're 27% from 3 in Big 12 play. Is it as simple as that? Is it a make or miss outside shot league? It seems like that sometimes. Their defense hasn't been great, but they have had some pretty bad shooting splits on that end. Unfortunate shooting splits. I personally think, Jim, maybe you disagree. I mean, if you're not hitting shots on offense, I think it affects everything, including your defense, mindset. You start losing begets losing. Their assist rate has also plummeted in conference play, sparking chemistry issue concerns. I don't want to put that on them quite, but this team really does look like completely different than what we saw in the non-con, and it's a shame because they should have been so good this year.
Yeah, well, Kai, they played dodgeball on Monday. They went to
Played
practice,
dodgeball.
thought they were going to get chewed out, and instead played dodgeball and loosened up. And then they scored 93 points at UCF on 76 possessions. We're going to keep an eye on this because maybe they're actually having fun playing basketball, and maybe they're back.
Yeah, Wes Miller throwing wrenches at his guys
You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Dodge, dip, dive, duck, and dodge. Illinois. So we're talking about now. The sky is falling in Champaign. If you ask an Illinois fan,
Yeah.
which is funny.
We have to be the voices of reason on Illinois, guy?
Hey, I can't wait to be the only person left on the bandwagon because I'm still on the
Yeah,
bandwagon.
right.
They're still
After-
awesome. This team's awesome.
after
I have not
trashing
wavered
them.
one bit in the last month.
46th in Bartorvik since the 15th of January. Campbell, by the way, is 43rd. The Camels are freaking wagons right now. Illinois is 17th in KenPom still. They're still a top 20 team. Down from their peak of 8, sure. They are 3-5 in the last 8 Big Ten games. Still in great shape for the tournament, though. 6-7 Q1, 9-8 Q1, Q2. They're good. But like Cincy, little parallel, they're dead last in the league in three-point percentage, 27.6%. Their D is good, but they can't force turnovers. It's a weird, you don't see many defenses that rank very, very highly that cannot force turnovers. They're dead last in forcing turnovers. Very
It's
strange.
like the St. Mary's, like heavy drop type
Yes.
stuff, like Creighton type too. Like,
bend,
we've got a
don't
big guy
break.
that's not mobile, and they do the dorking thing where they try to let bad shooters take shots. They try to force you into mid range, and it's mostly worked. But sometimes teams make those shots.
And I do buy the shooting struggles. I am surprised Will Riley has cooled off this much. He's a legit shooter, but I never bought Ivicic or Boswell or White being good shooters. I mean, come on. I think KJ is awesome, but Yakachonis, KJ, Matt, 4 for 31 from 3 in his last 8 games. 4 for 31. 3 and 5.
He takes tough ones. I said this. Like, this is
Lot
my
of
concern with
step backs.
Illinois. It's just like great shooter, great playmaker. But I mean, the Northwestern game was kind of the alarm bell game. It's like, man, I feel like if their late game stuff is too reliant on him taking those types of shots, it does worry me. In a game where they're not making threes, I do see the analysis of someone on Twitter talked about how Underwood's relentless strength training program is contributing to a dip in his team's shooters year over year. I don't know if you guys saw that. Pretty funny. Kind of like legit analysis though. Like, kind of buy it. Like they overwork out people, and they have like the Shaq at the free throw line effect, Kai. So you get worse at shooting because you get too big and athletic when you go there.
Interesting. Well, yeah, Kai, you mentioned Yakachonis shooting splits. Also, 23 turnovers the last 5 games. Like, since the injury, he has not been the same. The Michigan State foul trouble games seem to like throw him off. I think they'll be fine. I think it's your best player who you're super reliant on to create shots is in a funk. Shooters are in a funk. Sometimes that stuff snowballs. Illinois needs to play dodgeball, Kai. That's what I say.
Selfishly, I don't mind the Illinois swoon. They were getting a little bit too big for their britches, in my opinion. It's nice they got knocked back down to earth a little bit.
That I agree with, no question.
Kentucky 48th in Bartorvik since 115. They've lost 4 or 5. Lamont Butler, Jim started to mention it, and we saw that. His absence has been huge. Andrew Carr, I think it was in Illinois, has been not himself. Those have been huge factors, of course, but the defense, it's the worst in the SEC. That's a problem. You're dead last in turnover rate and 2-point field goal percentage defense. I don't even know how the latter stat is possible with Amari Williams and Brandon Garrison to a lesser extent. But like Illinois, they're more than fine. They're 7-6 in Q1. Kentucky, Jim, really bad defense.
Yeah, going to make the tournament, but the gap between their defense and the 15th place defense in the SEC is basically the same as number 1 to number 8. Like Tennessee's elite defense to middle of the pack. Kentucky is that far behind. It's bad. It's like an effort thing. It's an athlete's thing. You can't totally blame Butler. He can only do so much on the ball. But I liked what I posted a clip of a great St. John's defensive possession, and so many Kentucky fans are like, Mark Pope, you played for Pitino. Why can't you coach any sort of effort like this? The personnel is really different between St. John's
Personnel
and Kentucky.
so different.
But yeah, I mean, schematically, it doesn't look good either, Matt. They look lost out there sometimes.
Yeah, I do think the personnel, who Pope recruits, who Pitino recruits. I mean, Pitino's track record of his teams, it's the same. Prototypes are very similar. Same with Pope. So, I mean, I think, maybe there's probably a lesson or two to be learned from that. But, you're going to roll out Almani Amel, or what's the FTE transfer's name?
Ainsley Alomar, who had an...
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, what do you expect? You're not going to get Kadari Richmond level defense. I'm sorry.
I want to shout out Sam Vecini on this because I didn't see it. He had a 15 trillion against Mississippi.
Wow.
15 minutes, did not record a single stat. That is impossible.
He's been playing well, too. Interesting.
Yeah,
at least
I don't
I've
like him.
seen.
He was supposed to go to he got where was he supposed
He
to
got
go?
poached. Yeah, I forget where.
Like a
late.
fun mid major, and
Yeah,
then
late poach.
it's like, oh, come on.
Finally, Pitt, guys. Yeah, Jim mentioned Pitt earlier. 152nd in Bartorvik since January 15th. This team is done. They peaked at 12 in Kempom, if you can believe it, in the non-con. They're down to 45 there. It's a 12-2 start. It's 2-6 since. You're 5-6 in the ACC. 5-6 in the ACC, and it hasn't been all Duke and Clemson and Louisville games. They're just ineffective on both ends. It's a horrible rebounding team. Cannot score inside. Number 1 block rate and steal rate in the ACC, yet 12th on defense is things that make you go, And I want to have the Jeff Capel question, guys, because he was bad for 2 years. He started getting good. And everyone's like, Capel's a great coach. Well, after this year, it's going to be 1 NCAA tournament in 7 years. Right now, you're underperforming again, so 3 and 4 underperforming over 7 years. Capel's a good coach or bad coach? Matt, go.
Fine. I've moved on from bad to fine at this point.
Problem is he's like a top 4 coach in this conference. It's bad.
Right. And I think that all these ACC, the problem is that when you play in a bad league, you begin to compare yourself to consistently to teams in your league. And so what that does is just waters the top end down. And then the SEC, it brings the bottoms up. And that's why I feel like the SEC is drifting towards. You get measured, all the ADs and these people who don't make smart decisions get measured. They measure in the confines of their own dumb arena. And they're missing the vote in the big picture. I also think it's been tough that he's had some younger guard rosters as talented as they've been. I know they had some older. His best team, I guess, was that old backcourt with Nelly Cummings and who else was that? Hinson a couple years back. I wonder if that's hurt too. I don't know.
Jamarius Burton.
Yeah, thank you.
That's the guy.
Like Simande. Yeah, that's right. I don't know. I'm torn on Capel, Kai.
Yeah, I'm still camp-like, not great. So yeah, that's my first thought, guys.
Yeah,
I'm worried that Shire's going to hire him back, Kai, as an assistant if he gets fired. So I'd like him to keep doing well.
My pick contribution is the sound of a toilet flushing. The team sucks. They had no chance against Virginia at home. No chance. That's bad news.
That was bad.
Matt, your first thought. Let's go to you.
I have just an epiphany, and it's a bummer of an epiphany. And as we have the tournament just a kind of month away, 6 weeks away, I think we're going to see a very disappointing number of upsets and a very annoying amount of chalk, both from a seed perspective, but then as we're sort of looking at the potential bracket shake out, as I was just looking at last night, those double-digit seeds are just going to get chock full of crappy power conference teams that we just don't want to see. Not crappy, but not fun, and at the expense of a lot of these mid-majors. And the other part of this is I think it's the quality of the mid-majors that we are going to see. Again, this is sort of anecdotal. I apologize. Just isn't as strong as I was hoping for. So just for context here, there were 5. I did the number of upsets by year in the tournament, and I'm doing it by seed line, which I know is not true. I recognize that, but still, I think for the tournament Cinderella narrative and stuff, I think people anchor on seed line. So just for context,
and you're not counting like 8, 9, right?
No, I started at 6-11. So 6-11, 5-12, 13, yeah, up to 61, obviously. We peaked in 2017. We had 8. And then it was 4, 5, 5 the years leading into COVID. COVID happens, and then it was 7 the first year. I remember the COVID year was kind of a crazy tournament. No one remembers because it was it was in the COVID year, but there was 7 that year, and then 6 2022, 4 in 2023, and 5 last year because I'm not counting Oregon or NC State, which I don't think you should, frankly. Just the truth. I'm getting to the nature
11s.
of the mid. I know, but the point of this is it's like the Cinderella-y narratives to me more fit the mid-major vibe, not like the crappy NC States and Oregon's
some of
that
those other
sneak in.
years though, and probably find
There are a few, like UCLA was in there.
Yeah.
There weren't many. I mean, there's just usually, but there's 1 13-4. There's a high major, I think, at a 13-1. But again, as I look at the bracket this year and the quality of the mid major, so two parts of this. The bracket is clearly being just flooded by these pits. We just talked about Pitt. That's why it's a fitting transition here. But even the mid majors that are sort of at that, at the 12 and 13 projection for automatic bids, I don't feel like any of them are that terrifying. Like I'm looking at Yale as a projected 13th seed. I don't think this year's Yale's team is as good as last year's team. I don't.
But
look at Grand Canyon at 13. I think a lot of these teams like Akron, I'm getting my point, Akron, Grand Canyon, I think their analytic rankings are sort of juiced by the dominance they've had within the context of their conferences, but they're not actually as good as probably the teams last year.
Yeah, even like McNeese, we saw them in the non-con. They were not as good, and now they're
McNeese
torching
12.
Southland teams,
How about
moving up like
Sanford at
40
13?
spots. Yeah,
Sanford, I
the
think this year
Sanford team's
Sanford's
not as
team's not as good as last year, right?
agreed.
So
Agreed there.
the one exception is shockingly is probably UC Irvine, right? If they were to come out of the Big West,
Yes.
but so that's one to watch. But then like the Sun Belt, I mean the winner of that, I thought Arkansas State they've been really good. I thought they'd be better, honestly. I really did. I think the Sun Belt um, rep will be not disappointing, but I don't think will be a real challenger, frankly. And there's a lot of options to come out of that league. CUSA, Jacksonville State's the four. None of those teams did anything in the non-con. I don't know. Point. I'm just bummed. I think it's going to be a pretty chalky tournament, and I just feel like the writing is on the wall from both the quality of mid majors who are going to probably get in, and then the overload of the I don't care about you power conference meddling teams that take the spots of other teams who I'd like to see, but probably aren't that good either, honestly.
So you're just saying kind of first round, right? Because I think
More first round, totally. Yeah,
I think this tournament's gonna be nuts because I think there's like 50 good teams and they can.
I think the second
like,
rounds will be nuts. I think the excitement is going to start to be skewed more toward second, third weekend. I think the first weekend excitement will be largely uninspiring.
Yeah, I disagree with that too. Actually, I mean McNeese lost by 8 to Alabama at Alabama. Like Grand Canyon can compete with anybody. Liberty can compete with anybody. I think there's going to be plenty of upsets, or a normal amount, 4 to 5.
Oh, okay. I'll bet it. I'll bet you. We'll have a bet on that.
I'm
I think
including the 11s, by the
heavy
way.
chalk.
I mean, every single year, I think since the plan started, we've had a Sweet 16 team coming from there. So I know a lot of those are power teams, but they're still 11, 12 seeds. So we can
Yeah,
figure
Matt
it out.
doesn't
Georgia,
care if
Nebraska
makes. Oh,
Pitt.
come on, you don't care about Nebraska
Will
ball?
there be a
No,
12?
actually, I do like Nebraska this year.
I
will
think
say
only
that. I'm a
once.
Nebraska
I
guy.
think it was 2 years ago, Matt. There was no 12-5 upsets. You're saying there's no 12-5 this year?
No, I don't.
Illinois, Illinois. You don't think they're going to lose to a 12?
Who are the fives? Illinois, Ole Miss, Missouri,
Don't say
and
that.
Michigan. 12s. No, I think the fives sweep the 12s this year. That's my prediction.
All right.
I'll take that. I'll take that bet.
Yeah.
All right.
So will I.
My first thought, Kai, you hinted at it in the tweet teasing this podcast. New year, new me. Biggest adjusted efficiency margin changes since January 1st. Good and bad. This is per Ken Palm. In the bad ones, you'll hear a couple teams that Kai discussed in his thought, but the better Campbell is a completely different team. They are up like 14 points of efficiency margin rolling through the CAA. So one more shout out to the Camels on this episode. Self-serving here, Kai, number 2 since January 1st, the Missouri Tigers.
How about that?
Winning at Florida, dominating Mississippi State on the road, narrowly losing to a scorching hot Tennessee team. Mizzou's cooking. We love to see it. They're in that 4 seed, 5 seed conversation now. Houston Christian, a ATS darling this year. Louisville has been terrific, figured out the rotation, got Abubakar Traore back in there, got the right guys on the floor. Although Chucky Hepburn got hurt, so monitoring that, gonna see how long-term that is. Omaha in the Summit, just won on a buzzer beater last night on Thursday. Really dramatic game there. St. Mary's, they're still cooking despite last night's loss. Purdue, Texas Tech, Wisconsin, where Matt, I am now on board. This team is better than last year. You got me. I agree. And then VMI. Shout out to the Keydets, Andrew Wilson. New Mexico, Ole Miss, Creighton up there too. Matt, any of those teams jump out as somebody you've been particularly impressed with?
I'll say New Mexico. It's a team that I wanted. I really thought could be like top 10, not top 10, top 15 good this season had they gotten top and back. And there's a good chance he was going to stay. And the fact that they did, I mean, obviously I'm not sure he's poached, but a bigger bag was offered at Texas Tech. They're still awesome without him. But man, if they just New Mexico with Toppin, that's a terrifying team. That's like a mini St. John's type team with the way they dominate the extras, right? Turn you over, pressure you, can kill you on the glass. Can't shoot, but may not matter. But still, love New Mexico, love Donovan Dett and what they're doing. They got some talent, man, from Arizona, some defectors.
A mini St. John's. Huh. Who coaches St. John's and who coaches New Mexico?
Ta-da!
Right.
What?
Latino.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Connect the dots, baby. Connect the dots. I'm glad JT Toppin's on Texas Tech because I love them and picked them to the Final Four preseason.
They are fun.
And
it's a fun.
I think they rock.
It's a fun team.
So, Hawkins is playing fantastic for them at point. The teams that have gotten worse since January 1st. Whoo, Dayton. Poor Dayton Flyers. They're not even like discussed for an at-large anymore after entering league play like a seeming lock to get there. Miami, Florida, completely tumbled. They've been terrible. Cincinnati, despite that win against UCF, they have crashed down. St. Peter's, UMass Lowell, not even close in the America East anymore. Like they're below 500 in that league. Bizarre.
That makes no sense.
Western, yeah,
0 cents.
really shocking. Western Illinois, Western Carolina, two teams that
Yeah.
I I
Screw
got
you.
fooled by Western Illinois on opening night. They beat
So did
San
I.
Jose State, and they are terrible. Western Carolina also really, really bad. Oregon has dropped quite a bit. It may be predictable considering the close game success, the come from behind type of factor that they had. Now, but not those comebacks anymore. And then Pitt, as Kai mentioned, Iowa, LSU, all down here too. So
Oof.
matches what your eye test is telling you, Kai. But man,
Yeah.
it's dark times for those squads.
Iowa gets up every single game and then doesn't cover. They're a what would we call those? Toilet paper soft going down the stretch. Iowa
Downy soft.
Downy
Yes.
soft. Yes,
Why'd you call them lawn chairs? Because they always fold
lawn
like
chairs.
they're
They always
a lawn
fold. There
chair.
you go. That's a good one.
fold them like laundry. Yeah, no, I saw after the Wisconsin game when Wisconsin put up 116 points, Kamari McGee said like, "Oh, they don't even want to defend," and Iowa acted like insulted by that. And Joe Jackson on Twitter did the Bart Torvik filter. Since that date, Iowa 250th in defense. Like you don't want to defend. It's true.
250.
You suck at it. You suck at it. Okay, that is my first thought. Kai, back to you.
Hey, real quick, and I know we're running long. A Power League check-in. I was like, hey, where did we pick these teams in the preseason of the Power Leagues, and where are they sitting now in the standings? Yes, Matt can gripe that every team's the same, blah, 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 tiers, systems, whatever. We drew the line. The ACC, Matthew wrote it. He went with Duke, UNC, Wake, Virginia. I think this is written pre-Bennett. And then Louisville at number 5. The actual standings, Duke, Louisville, Clemson, who Matt had 9th, SMU, who Matt had 8th,
That was dumb.
and Wake. So Matt, of his top 5 there, UNC is sitting 7th, and Virginia, again, giving him a pass there, sitting 14th. Matt, were you smart or dumb?
Clemson was dumb. A little too cute with Clemson. But again, like I think Clemson's good. I think we'll find out what Clemson really is in the tournament this year because I think the ACC's trash. The only thing I got right here, Kai, was Louisville.
Yeah,
Louisville's good.
Very good call on Louisville. Yeah, you could have
Probably
been
not
bolder.
even right enough.
You could have been bolder.
Yeah.
Big 12, it was me. I said Houston, Kansas, Iowa State, Arizona, Baylor. In reality, it's Houston, Arizona, Texas Tech, Kansas, Iowa State as of today. So missed the Baylor Texas Tech swap. I'm not going to do a victory lap. I think this was probably the easiest league in the Big East to pick, and I got both those leagues,
like
so hooray.
super obvious top 5 in this
Yes.
league. So yeah.
Yes. So, yes. Again, no victory lap. Jim got
Great. Let's do the Big Ten.
Jim got the two hardest leagues.
Fun.
Jim got the two hardest leagues, the Big Ten and the SEC, because they were both crapshoots. But Jim's top 5 in the preseason: Purdue, Indiana, Oregon, Michigan, Rutgers. The actual right now: Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan, Wisconsin, UCLA. Jim had Sparty 8th, Wisconsin 15, UCLA 6. In his top 5, Indiana is actually 12 right now, Oregon's 10, Rutgers 13. Jim, assess yourself.
Nailed Michigan. Absolutely nailed it.
Yes.
Rutgers, big whiff. It's horseshit. We're doing this on current standings instead of Ken Palm stuff because unbalanced schedules and all that. Garbaggio. But hey,
Purdue won.
You're a metronome. Why did I trust Mike Woodson? I knew I shouldn't trust Mike Woodson. I trusted Mike Woodson. I'm an idiot.
Wisconsin. Ooh, your boys.
Yeah, the Buzzcut badge. A lot. But I mean, come on. John Tanja's an All-American.
I didn't see that one coming. Big East, again, this was probably the easiest league. I had UConn, Creighton, Marquette, Xavier, St. John's. That is the top 5, but it's a different order. St. John's, Creighton, Marquette, UConn, Xavier. Interesting. I did not have St. John's 1, so I will take a C on that one.
Way to get cute, or way to not get cute. I mean, you did not have some like Butler cracking the top 5.
It's a horrible league. No, it's not a horrible league. Sorry, I take that back. It's a
After the top 5,
it's a
it
bad
is.
league.
It's a bad
It's
bottom.
a bad league.
It's a bad bottom.
Call it a
6.
bad league. It's a bad
bottom
league.
6. The SEC, Jim. Okay. Actually, not bad. Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas were Jim's top 5. The actual: Auburn, Alabama, Florida, who Jim had 6th, A&M, who Jim had 8th, and Missouri Tigers, who Jim had 11th. In his top five, Arkansas is 14th right now. Tennessee is 6th. Kentucky's 8th. I'd say pretty good by Jim.
Yeah, I'm not going to apologize for having top five in Ken Palm, Tennessee in my top five.
Yeah, you don't have to apologize for that.
I don't count that as a whiff. But yeah, Kai should have been more aggressive on the old Missouri Tigers,
Yeah.
taking all kinds of off-season flack and been doing victory laps right now. I could be.
Fun to look back. I will parse through our mid majors maybe close to the end of the year, but interesting to say the least.
Yes,
Okay.
Quick, Kai,
indeed.
real quick. Currently, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 potentially SEC bids.
Oh yeah,
14. 14 could make
14.
it
Okay.
because Arkansas is really in the mix again.
it's awesome league. It's an awesome league. Okay, that's my thought. Back to Matthew.
No, I have one long thought. I'm going
Okay.
to hockey pass back
Jim.
to Jim.
All right, my second thought was just as I went through the Bubble Watch plug, The Athletic, boom, check it out. Just teams that have resume divides. They've got big caps between their quality metrics and their resume metrics. So they're predictive, how good they should be going forward, and resume, what they've accomplished so far. Think back to last year, Gonzaga was this like there was a will they make the tournament late in the year, and then suddenly they rattled off a bunch of big wins, beat St. Mary's, and they were a 5 seed. And that's basically where they're at again this year. They are the poster child for being better predictively than they are with their resume. And I like to call these high upside, higher ceiling type of profiles because if you start picking up a couple wins and the resume metrics raise, all those predictive stuff are going to get you seated really well. And that's Gonzaga, that's Illinois, who's still way up there predictively. That is still a really good team. As Matt said, don't waver. They're just taking a couple losses and their resumes suffered a little bit, but they've got a high upside. And then down towards the bubble, Texas, BYU, VCU, teams that if they get in, it's going to be annoying to play them early because they're good, and you're going to not want to have to tolerate having such an awesome underdog facing you. But we don't know if they'll get in. Still TBD. Texas probably the safest of that group. And then the other hand, the better resume. Teams with a bunch of really good wins, maybe no bad losses, but maybe not that good overall predictively. And these ones are really tough to see. The poster child last year was Virginia. They sneak in because they win a lot of close games. They get blown out a ton. They're not actually that good, and they are the national nightmare during the playing game. So hopefully we don't get another one of those. But the ACC provides again here. That's Wake Forest, a bad offensive team that's good defensively and has not taken a bad loss, has resume metrics worthy of being in the field. They feel like, just like Virginia, a play-in team this year. Memphis is in this group. Utah State is in this group. And Drake and UC Irvine. So maybe a little bit of a bias against the mid-majors with the predictive rankings, but I do like that hopefully we stress resume metrics, Kai, and get some mid-majors in the at-large group. I want to see UC Irvine or Drake make the field.
Yeah, about Wake Forest real quick. This is Steve Forbes. His 2024 team and 2022 team were miles better than this team, and this team might make the tournament. It's sick. It makes me sick. First of all, yes, I really hope Irvine and Drake make the tournament. I think both of them are absolutely giant killers. Matt, Drake can beat anybody with their style of play. That's a 12-5 upset waiting to happen.
You're right. I agree. I don't think they've proven they've done anything against real competition this year. I'd look back at the Vandy game was sort of a weird.
Terrible.
In case it was bad, I don't know. We'll see. I love the team. I do, Kai. You're right. With their style, they can be. I'm just still more skeptical of their talent gap, so to speak. But we'll see. Great coach. I don't know why sorry. I just have this feeling that they might get. They're going to be the sexy upset pick that they're down 20 at half and everyone's pissed off that the Weave told them to pick Drake. And
I don't think they can lose by 20.
You're right. That's a good point.
I don't think they can. They're that.
A very valid point.
Well coached, they don't play fast enough. And guys, we have to, if they make it, we have to bet Drake a third year in a row in the tournament after they shoved it up our butts 2 straight years.
That's right.
Darian DeVries, you rat. You rat, Darian DeVries.
That's brutal.
Jim, if Gonzaga gets an 8 seed, I mean, you got to complain if you're a 1 seed.
It's unfair. Yeah. I mean, you're going to, right. Second round, we are a 4-point favorite against Gonzaga. Although, hey, I don't think they'll get an 8 seed. I think they'll rattle off a couple wins here down the stretch. I think they'll get St. Mary's at home, potentially even win the WCC tournament and shoot back up to that 5 seed range again.
Yeah.
That would be my prediction on the Zags. I believe that is it, guys, for three-man thoughts. Kai, we're going to soar through previews because we've got a big old show tomorrow where we're going to talk every Saturday game and then a couple quick reviews as
Yes.
well.
I
So
agree.
Friday night, Big East Showdown, St. John's at UConn. Ken Pump's got a UConn -1. I will be writing a best bet for Action Network on this game. Kai, I think St. John's wins. I think I'm concerned about the health of all of UConn's ball handlers. Both Diarra and Mahaney are game time decisions. Noel is out. Who knows what McNeely's going to be able to contribute. Spot favors UConn. I think St. John's wins.
Yeah, I took UConn, Jim. I got 1.5. It's up to 3.5. Perfect. My entire goal was to take UConn early and then come back on St. John's for a little bit of a middle action. So I think it's close. I think UConn wins, though. I understand the injury concerns, but the coaching, St. John's a great coach as well. But I think Hurley's got the boys prep for this one, and UConn takes it in McNeely's return to action, Matthew.
Johnny's.
Ooh. All right. I'm going to
I
grab
like
this
it.
4.
I would love to have. I'm
I do
glad
think
I haven't
McNeely is
submitted my write-up yet because I'll take a better number.
McNeely is enormous. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it goes without saying at this point.
Patino almost beat a much better UConn team with a much worse St. John's team twice last year. Throw that out there. And again, if you can't get into your offense against St. John's, like they'll just take ball handling, getting into the flow. I think they'll make them really uncomfortable. All right, Saturday, Texas Tech at Arizona. This is a rematch. Texas Tech really got their mojo going, their first big win against Arizona. Matt, I think they sweep. I am a big Texas Tech proponent right now. They've got great guard play. They got multiple shot creators. Darian Williams is starting to look healthier and healthier. Arizona's been playing with fire a little bit. I think Texas Tech goes into Tucson and gets a road W.
I agree. I mean, Arizona's just, I feel like they're due for a bad game. They've, for all the skeptics of them going into the Big 12, they've been terrific away from home. I think coming off that BYU win, they're just due for sort of um, not a clinker, but just not a great game. And they probably should have lost the Iowa State game, to be honest. I think they are kind of
Yeah.
flirting with disaster here in this one against a really good, a well-coached team. Surely Grant McCasland will have something cooked up to force Caleb Love into being a hero or to taking dumb, inefficient shots, and I think they'll be ready.
That's what Texas Tech did game 1. They allowed 0.8 points per possession against Arizona. Just they could not score at all from 3 or from 2. And Texas Tech dominated the glass. I like Texas Tech as well, boys. I hope we get 3. That'd be great.
50-34 on the glass in
Yeah.
that first game. That is a total butt kicking there. Texas A&M at Mizzou. Big one in the SEC here. The Tigers have been pretty darn solid at home. Kai, are they going to be able to handle the maniacal extras and offensive rebounding of Texas A&M?
I really hate that I'm such a believer in this Missouri team now. It's scaring me. I do think A&M is going to bludgeon us on the glass, but the Tiger team's tough, man. I'm into Mizzou. This team's really good. I took a title future on them, 80-1. Why not?
Hey,
I really want to be all in on my Tigers. At home, they scrap. They scrap like nobody else. They're so deep, and the depth is actually mattering this season. Gates is throwing pieces at the wall, but he does really have legit players in his disposal. I think Mizzou from 3, A&M does not guard the three-point line very well. I think that's a big advantage, and I think the home crowd gets us there, Matthew.
I don't know. Do we still like A&M? Big picture.
Yeah, they're really good. They're awesome.
I know.
yeah, you were right on these. You should be victory lapping A&M.
I know. I still get the same annoyance when I watch them play. I actually like your Tigers here. I do.
Good.
I
do too.
think Mizzou has proven they're just not like a run hot feast or famine team. I think the Tennessee game was like maybe almost as impressive, if not more impressive, than the Mississippi State game. That's probably too far, but you see my point. Tennessee shoots very well. Mizzou's all the way in that game against a team they theoretically should not match up well against.
Yep. Here's my one little factoid on this. Kai, would you believe it if I told you Mizzou is second in the SEC in defensive rebound rate? Like they're actually really battling on the glass.
Good for them.
I mean, they gave up a bunch at Tennessee, but it's Tennessee at their place. They're huge. I think they're going to compete there. I don't think they'll get completely walloped on the boards.
Hope
So
they
I'll go
compete.
Mizzou.
Hope they compete. Yeah.
Marquette, who has, as we mentioned, been in a little bit of a funk. They're heading to Creighton, Omaha, somewhere in Middle America. Mr. Rothstein.
Kind of gross.
Yeah. Creighton has been excellent lately. McDermott's been brilliant game planning with, not really that many scores. Jemiah Neal is good, apparently. Kalkbrenner's still Kalkbrenner. Kai, does Marquette get it done on the road, or does Creighton get another big win in the Big East?
I think Creighton's really tough to beat at home, man. I think they're rolling right now. They are rolling. That's not even an opinion. I haven't had the best schedule compared to Marquette as of late. I do worry about Marquette's pressure. They are ridiculously tough defending the ball. Number one turnover rate in the Big East, top 5 in the country. But Creighton at home, I'm going with the Jays. Marquette has shown cracks. And as much as I like this team, especially at the beginning of the year, the cracks, Matthew, I can't ignore. I'm going Creighton.
I like Creighton here. I mean, they didn't turn it over a ton first meeting, and I just think that I mentioned earlier, this Marquette team to me has a little bit of they're in kind of a trance. I just don't see the same feverish pressure, and I think that's going to matter on the road. That's sort of how you need to, I think, assert your dominance against a not overly athletic Creighton backcourt. But Creighton's playing too hard, and I think at home they're not going to, wilt to the Marquette pressure the way it's looking right now. So I like Creighton.
I'm going to go Marquette here.
Good.
Creighton had 19 turnovers at home against St. John's. I think they're potentially vulnerable to that kind of pressure. I know they won that game. It was because St. John's can't shoot. But if Marquette actually does gear it up, and I think they will, considering they're off 2 losses against 2 top teams, I think Creighton does barely drop this game, then they bounce back and beat UConn on Tuesday. That's my assessment of the Blue Jays here. A big homestand for them. I mean, they're right in the mix to win the Big East. If
wild.
St. John's goes down tonight at UConn, Creighton's right there waiting to take the title. So, all right, that is it for quick previews. Again, join us tomorrow morning, for a much deeper dive and discussion on all the Saturday games. Giant 155 game slate. All right, wrapping it up with reviews. Kai, we've got 2 real quick.
2 reviews. One from Carolyn Davidson. They know ball. Love the podcast, longtime listener, camaraderie and knowledge y'all share, love the y'all, is truly one of a kind. 2 potentially overlapping questions. If Hubert Davis walks away from UNC this spring, we've heard probably not likely, but there's calls for his firing for sure. Number 1, if you were the UNC AD, who would be the first 3 or 5 calls? Number 2, if you had to make betting odds, who would be the 3 to 5 favorites to be the UNC head coach on opening night? Thanks, and go Heels. You got to make Brad Stevens say no.
Of course. You got to make Brad Stevens say no. You got to make Scott Drew, Nate Oates say no. I think they do call those guys. Roy Williams is around, man. He was at Mizzou at Tennessee, Kai. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
I think Oates is the right answer. I think my tongue-in-cheek answer is Wes Miller, who I know is losing sleep over the fact that his team is in an absolute tailspin, and he was, I think, kind of set up for this job. I think the hope was like, okay, Wes, go prove yourself at a legit place and come home right after he just took UNC Greensboro to a new level, one of their own. But I don't know. I don't think you do. I don't think you pull that trigger now, right?
North Carolina is a top 3 job. 1. It is
5. I don't know.
It is
like a top
awesome
10. I don't know. I don't want to be in the ACC.
I know. I'm a Jim. Actually, I
like,
might say top
ACC.
10.
True. Point.
Yeah, that doesn't.
It's North Carolina.
Overly excite me.
It's Michael Jordan.
Yeah, but you're going to be in the shadow of Bill
Michael Jordan.
Belichick,
Make him say
Kai.
no. What? Shadow
of Bill Belichick. Yeah.
They got to hire a power guy.
Carolina's the type of team
guy.
where I would like turn to Darian DeVries. Like, I know you're just there a year, but we know you're an awesome coach.
Yeah.
Come be a good. Hire outside the family. I think all these teams should be hiring outside the family. Just get a good.
I agree. Get outside the family. Kai, to your point about experience, I don't even think that matters. Like, Grant McCasland was at North Texas. I know like North Texas is now like not they're clearly like an upper end, high major team. But like, just get a good coach. The program, to your point, sells itself. You're going to get players.
Well, yeah.
You don't need a big time coach. You just need a guy who can coach. Period. Just
you got to win the presser though. I think you get a
win the presser.
Power 5 guy. Yeah, I think they have a choice. I think a lot of guys would jump for that job. And then finally from Bradley Fernandez, new week, same great pod. I mentioned Radiohead last week. Hooray! So he says, give me your 3 favorite Radiohead songs. His are Airbag, 15 Step, and Idioteca. I am like the Spice of Life variety guy. I have a really hard time choosing favorites of anything. It's my entire life. It permeates through me. It's actually a problem I have. I'm jealous of people that get tattoos, for instance, because they can choose what to put on their body for their entire lives, and I cannot do that. But I did write down 3. Karma Police is probably my favorite song by them. It's that basic, yes it is. Reckoner, and then I'm gonna go with Jigsaw falling into place. Let's go with those things. But I also like Burn the Witch. I like a lot of Radiohead songs. I like all of them. They're all great. Okay, that's it.
I have no comment other than to finish the second part of Carolyn Davidson's question. I would put Hubert a heavy favorite to be the coach on day one next year. I'm
Yeah,
just going to say that.
it'll probably be Davis. Yeah,
Congrats on your Radiohead question, Kai. Proud of you.
thanks. They are
Glad
great.
you have had a chance to
They really hit
answer
differently,
it.
Jim, during a busy season and audit back in the day in winter when everything's depressing. Just put on Radiohead. Just fits the mood.
There you go. There you go. All right, that wraps it up for us here today on this fine Friday morning. Our old Matthias will be chopping this up and getting it out to you on the pod waves. Shout out to everybody that's watching live. Thank you to the chat. Always enjoy your input. That's it for today. Again, join us Saturday morning. Best bets, 10 a.m. Central, about an hour, going through as many games as possible on the 155 game slate. That's all for us today, though. Cheers and enjoy the ball.